See, as I tell you about the practice, I start to tap into what's going on for me. So you take a minute, and it's timed. So a light goes off on a timer, and your partner says, "Thank you." And then you say to your partner, after a breath with your eyes closed, 1 minute with you, and with eyes open, and that person has a minute just to see what's coming through. And the first few times it could be very uncomfortable, but many of us know in that uncomfort, yes, 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 this is where I want to find my voice. This is where my true voice comes through. So you do a minute, whatever it takes. And what I find as Regina and I, as our stillness partners, and again, I want to emphasize that the best you can do is find a person to do this exercise with. Regina and I, who are entrepreneurs together in developing this protocol and spreading this message in this way, we'll start having a business meeting from here. So then we'll take 2 minutes and start perhaps talking once we have everything out of the way, and which goes pretty quickly when you're in this place of stillness together, whatever needs to come through. We start talking about what's up. In other words, what decisions are we making? What direction are we taking? So maybe we take 2 minutes each, and then 2 minutes, and then 2 minutes, and then we stop timing. And then perhaps we start having a conversation, but it's still with these values of listening from this place and speaking from this place with no crosstalk. Crosstalk gets in the way, you know? It's a different kind of brainstorming. It's a brain, what would be another word than storm? Although incredible ideas start coming through because we're sourcing from stillness. Now that's the other expression. Now in speaking circles, we've used the expression easygoing in the not knowing. In other words, not knowing what you're going to say, but not having to find out, being okay, being present without knowing, and noticing that you source, that what comes through is real when you're not putting pressure on yourself to fill the space. That's easygoing in the not knowing. In fact, there's a video I'm going to send you. It's hardly on the website. It's on the front page of the website. It's called Easygoing in the Not Knowing, Scenes from a Speaking Circle. And the words now for relational stillness that are related to easygoing in the not knowing is sourcing from stillness. So those of you with a stillness practice, those of you who would like a stillness practice, you probably understand somewhere, and I have all these quotes on the website. Oh, that's another article I'll send to you if you haven't seen. Masterful, the wise people of our ancestors and currently who talk about everything's in the stillness. All the wisdom is in the stillness. Yet we're going into our personality and into our minds and into our brains to try to figure things out and brainstorm and coming up with elevator pitches, and we're coming up with mission statements, all from trying to figure it out, many of us from trying to figure it out, when the real stuff is coming from a deeper knowing. So that's what we're setting up for communication. Now, let me ask you, Chris, did this make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yes, I was curious how it relates back to like with if it's just not one person across from you and you're communicating to a larger group. But I think the same idea. I like this idea of not getting. Because sometimes when I'm talking to a group and I see their faces, and some have expression, some won't. You know, so you get caught up in the mental dialogue versus just being present with what you're seeing versus. Allowing those voices in your head, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, let me.
That makes sense?
Great. Let me answer. Let me talk about that, Chris, because let's translate this to public speaking. A lot of people are here because of the public speaking connection. That's what got me started. Now, once you know where relational stillness is with one person in this practice, and in my workshops, in our weekend workshops, we start with a dyad partnership and working on with relational stillness, exploring relational stillness. Once you get up in front of the larger group, we'll start with a small group. That's what a speaking circle is. and you take a breath, say with your eyes closed or not, and start with a breath or two in pure stillness with yourself, grounding, letting the ground come to you, going down to the center of the earth, and taking a breath and sensing the stillness, not having to connect. When you open your eyes, the idea isn't you connect with people, because to try to connect is to come from separation, but to invite into stillness and look at one person. Now just imagine you've taken 15, 20 seconds of silence, which, by the way, is not so easy, is it? Because that's the time in the talk. You think if you don't open with a joke or with a provocative statement, as they teach in traditional public speaking, that you'll lose their interest. But no, it's really a breath that lets them know you're there. Once you know that that's what you want to do, once you're committed to it and wouldn't have it any other way, starting a relationship with a group with a breath, and looking around and seeing through their eyes the beauty of their soul, if that's how you can see the beauty of their soul. And then when you look at somebody, to say your first sentence, and we recommend the first sentence be a time and place to start a story. And that's another thing I'm going to send you in the email after this, aside from the sound file of this hour, is the how to open and structure a transformational talk. And then you say that to somebody conversationally, not dramatically, not in the third person, but, like I might start a talk saying, 15 years ago my mom was dying and I was sitting by her bed. Full breath. And then inviting this stillness, one person at a time. In other words, you finish a sentence with somebody and you notice you're leaving. You move to someone else, and you keep tapping into an invitation to co-stillness, whether they take you up on it or not. Now you're going to look at somebody and you might think, oh, they're not looking at me, or they don't like me. Or the judgments we make, we're attached to what we think, and that's really, if you're attached to what people's faces look like, you won't have a moment of peace up there. In relational stillness, if I see somebody who looks like they're not listening or doesn't like me, it does momentarily. I do get this because it's kind of hardwired into me, a momentary jolt of, but it passes immediately, because I know that often people are really getting a lot out of it, but their faces don't show it. So you can't be attached. So yeah, the relational presence capacity lets you get past those self-judgments and the stories you tell yourself. And the more you're in stillness, inviting a connection, the more the audience comes into this kind of a field of belonging. Because you're being with one of them at a time, and it's irresistible for a leader to truly be there. And I mean, even if you're with 100, 200, 1,000 people, to always be with one person or another. It doesn't mean you have to see their eyes. They could be in the 20th row, and you see little slits. But it's not about having to see their eyes. It's about sensing you're one-on-one with them. Just a moment. Just a moment with another human being. And it may sound like it takes extra time because you're making little stops, but eventually, as you practice this, it becomes more fluid. It's not so apparent. It's not like the robot. And some people in speaking circles, they have to start. It feels a little robotic to be with one person and another. Really take a slight pause. Make a noticeable pause, which is how you learn it. Like playing music, you need between chords to maybe make a pause to form the next chord, even though it doesn't. You really want to do it smoothly, but you need to learn the segues. So, as you learn to move from one person to another in a fluid way, it may be a little uncomfortable, but eventually it becomes fluid. And the sense of connectedness fills the room because you're more interested in serving them, in noticing the power of their listening. The biggest resource in a room is their listening, and it's almost like sustainable communication. How do you marshal their listening? How do you honor their listening? How do you give positive regard to their being with you. You practice. Do it with a partner. Do it with a small group. Come to speaking circles if you can. Create your own study group in Relational Stillness, which you can do by following videos and articles online on the website. If this is something you want to do, there's nowhere else this is being taught unless somebody tells me that it is. Nothing like this is for communication to groups is being taught in any of the public speaking offerings I've seen out there. And people do send me things that seem close. I look at them and they say, well, yeah, but they miss the foundational stillness.
Hi, this is Vinita. Yes, so I'm just want to sharing something. Like, I have kind of been in this practice of stillness for a long time. I have been meditating for a long time. And it's lately I have sort of realized what it really means to be present in that stillness and allowing the other person also, and having that awareness. And when you are aware of that stillness around you, you are more alert to the other person, and you're able to actually hear or feel the other person's feelings. It has sort of made me aware of where I want to go next, and I have gone through some major changes in my life. And at this point in my life, I'm kind of in the place where I'm just there with the presence, with the stillness, but I'm trying to figure out my next steps from here.
Can you find a relational stillness partner to talk about next steps with, to explore next steps with?
I guess I'm doing that right now in this moment.
Right. This is a great start. And I know finding next steps is huge. Economically, in prosperity, this is for everyone. We are so looking for how to let the world know what we have available for them. How do I reach the world? How do I put my contribution into the world? This is such a juicy place, and there's a lot of frustration. And the idea of having someone to extend this, what we're doing on this call with, it is so... it's a luxurious space to have. How about having an hour where you can listen and speak with somebody who's also wanting to find the words and the next steps? This is what I want for all of you. And in fact, I'd love for you to respond after this call and let me know if you're finding someone. And if you do, when you do, to send me information, and I'll connect with both of you. In other words, I want to keep in touch with those of you who are forming partnerships, kind of a news group, a little group to support that, because this is what Regina and I and some other folks who are so excited about this way in, this innovative way in, want to support for families, for businesses, for friendships, for people who are leaders in the world. So thanks, Vinita. This is the beginning of that exploration, because we always were looking, what are the next steps? And where do we go? We go to our minds. We go to brainstorming. We go to have these conversations. Well, they are good conversations. I always come up with good ideas when I have those conversations that are mostly mind and mental and head trippy, because there's some heart in them. They're not from the heart, not from the soul. But having it uncut with somebody, having it pure, it seems you're not doing anything. I mean, this is such a radically busy damn world. I mean, it's getting speedier and speedier with digital devices, right? And we think that when we're not moving and working and talking and figuring out, it's like nothing's happening. And I'm telling you, we have to stop in the stillness to access our deepest knowing. We are so wise.